What's going on, guys? I'm White's T, and welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. And today I am joined by probably the biggest fan of the champion we're discussing, and we've got SAPH. How's it going, bro?
All hail the church of this champion. I don't know if you've done like a clickbait think of the video, but by now hopefully everyone knows why I'm here. I guarantee if people put it in the comments, they'll be like, yeah, of course he's going to be going on about this champion again. He never shuts up about this champion. So I'm glad to be here with my good buddy YST.
Yeah, it's actually a crazy one because for anyone that's not aware, me and SAPH work together on a daily basis over at hellhades.com. And we've literally not done a collaboration in 2 years. Like, how have we managed to make this happen? You know?
Maybe because I just live in a cave with about 100 piles of like, you see those people in the desks and they have like hundreds of piles of paper lined. That's my life these days, in terms of like different things we've got to do on the website and stuff over in Fateless and different things like that. It's probably like the time has never presented itself, which is kind of crazy because we do talk pretty much about champions and ratings and damage multipliers and how to build champions and different changes to the game all the time. Every update, me and you are like, hey, what do we think about this? How does this work? And yeah, it's kind of ironic, really.
Yeah. And actually, one thing I wanted to ask you, and I'm sure many people watching wants to understand as well. So everyone knows why I like Genzin, but I actually don't know what was the trigger for you really liking Whisper. Was there like a turning point that you're like, damn, this is my champion now?
Why did I get into Whisper? Well, it was a while ago now. It was what? 3 years ago, when we were all still doing clan bosses and everything else like that, I was like, I had a mission to try and make Whisper really good. And I saw a couple of people doing some pretty interesting stuff around Whisper. And she was at the time one of the few champions that could even hit any sort of concept of true damage. And because she was epic and she was also like the old Amazon Prime, like super, super old Amazon Prime, we're talking 2021. A lot of people had her, and I was like, I actually think she's like super good. Which when we were doing different calculations for the first time on like damage tier lists and stuff like that, and ever since then, I'm just like, she's a bit of a monster because she was one of the few champions that could do like that extra turn cycle into like craziness. And yeah, I mean, ever since then, it's just always been like, what can Whisper not do? I mean, I'm very close to having a Whisper one shot the Shogun boss. I'm very close.
Oh,
very,
wow.
very close.
That's crazy. Yeah, so
Literally one shot it.
Yeah, so the reason for this video actually is you may see we have now got a +4 fully ascended Whisper, and I'm sure that you're gonna be proud of this.
I've been trying to get duplicate Whispers for literally ever since the Epic Empowerments come out. I've got a +1. I actually have 3 6-star Whispers soon. When I get my next Whisper after I've +4'd it, I'll have 3 6-star Whispers, because why not?
Yeah. But basically, I just wanted to see what's the damage potential, what kind of builds are we looking for, and just have some fun with it. See the damage around the board. And I think the biggest thing that I've seen from the +4 was in Hydra. The damage was comparable to Thor Feyhammer, and I was absolutely shocked that that's coming out from an epic champion. So I guess very briefly going into this, just what she does. So we got an A1 here with a chance to place weaken, which is nice. And then we got this Unyielding Flurry, which attacks one enemy 2 times and grants an extra hit if the target is under decreased defense and weaken. So definitely pairing her with a champion that can bring this is gonna unlock her full potential, as per se. With this A2, Charged Assault, this is like the money scaling ability, guys.
Keep going.
Oh, now I'm interested.
Going.
Now I might be wrong. This is why we bring SAPH on the channel. So increased attack and increased crit rate. This ensures that you can get to that 100% a lot easier, and also self-enhancing her damage. But then also ignores 100% off defense if they're under a weaken. Like, this a skill hits like an absolute truck, but I want you to enlighten me. What was you gonna say there?
The A3 has better multipliers.
Oh, really? Okay.
The A3 is where you want to try and get growth. My A3 on my Whisper will do about 2.2 million damage, or 2.1, and the A2 is kind of like 1.8. Because the A3 has better multipliers, but obviously doesn't ignore defense. So obviously everyone will probably use the A2 and go, A2 hits really, really hard because they're not chaining all the different things. But now we've got area bonuses and Cat's Gaze. You can get her hitting true damage more often than not. And the A3 is way stronger. Like we're talking 20 to 30% stronger if you get it all rolling in the right way. So actually the A3 is where you really want to be focusing your time and energy.
Oh, wow, that's actually never thought of that. I always look at it as, just set up their ability to actually do the crazy skill, but that's probably something I'm going to focus on looking forward, is trying to push this one. But I guess the thing that gives her the title as the boss slayer is also the passive, because has a chance of granting an extra turn, which is nice, but also increases damage inflicted on bosses by 20%. Like, that is just crazy coming out from an epic. Now, I currently have her in a Crushing Rend. I know there's that discrepancy between Phantom Touch versus Crushing Rend, which one takes the kind of crown. In your opinion, which one comes out on top in a very simple breakdown?
Rend now. And the
Okay.
only reason why I would say Rend now is in the Relic world, if you have Cat's Gaze, you no longer have to roll the Helm Smasher if you have Rend in Hydra, for example. Because if you think about the pure math of this, Hydra, you will get 20% base, and then you'll get 31% from Rend. So that's 51%. Cat's Gaze you can get at the moment, realistically, because really trying to get a rank 6 Relic is crazy, stupid hard. You're talking like a 4-star, so that's about 14% of, I think, off the math off the top of my head, maybe 60. I think it's 14%.
Okay.
So you can go like 20 plus 14 plus 31%. So it's like 51, 61, 66% before you even get into the realms of what else can I do. So if I had Helm Smasher, that then gets me to like 80, 91%. So then you're just looking at, like, if I take the triangular gemstone that gives me 3% more if they're under 2 debuffs, now I'm at like 94%. There's a very strong possibility that you can get yourself to true damage all the time, or near enough like 50% of the time now, with all the different combinations of different things. Especially if you, like, we didn't even throw in artifact sets there, right? I didn't even throw in Merciless, right? So if you get Merciless, that's 35%. So it's like 35 plus 31 plus 20% area bonuses plus 14% Cat's Gaze. You probably don't even need Helm Smasher anymore to hit true damage all the time. So Rend is at 6-star. Rend is almost always good. If you're not at 6-star, then obviously I would go something like Nature's Wrath and try to land the weaken. Now, having said that, if you can get to true damage without Crushing Rend, then Nature's Wrath by far, because that's 30% multiplicative damage. You would never turn that down, if that makes sense. It's super good. So it's always those choices these days. It's either Nature's Wrath or you want to go for Rend at 6-star. But because we don't have area bonuses in Chimera, if you're going to use her in Chimera, you always want to go towards the Rend. So Rend is just a bit more universally useful outside of Arena, because it's really useless in Arena. It's like 6%. It's really small.
Yeah, I might actually switch over to this and see how good it can be. I guess in prolonged battles, the Nature's Wrath, and then I guess the main area that I use her like on a day-to-day basis is stuff like the Phantom Shogun. I think is a number one for me. But the way that I've got a build at the moment is in Relentless, and this is something that I enjoyed for a very long time. But what I wanted to try with you today is switching over to Merciless, seeing a bit more power. We have got +4 now, and just seeing what kind of numbers that we can see. I guess the kind of montage that I made of the stuff you see at the start of the video was in this build, so just pay note to that when I show you the Hydra damage later, guys. But this was like crit damage, attack percent, some accuracy for the weaken. We got attack percent with speed, and you guys get the theme here. We're looking for attack, bit of accuracy if you want weaken, and just as much crit damage and crit rate as you can get. And the current stats...
I think Relentless is still a very fine build for most people who, don't have access to Cintrano's hard or haven't got a 6-star, because, what you then, if you can't get all the ignore defense for the A3, actually what you want to try and do is get more A2s. So the more turns you can take, the better it is. It's a bit of an issue to always remember in Hydra, like you've only got a 1,000 turn cap. You don't really have the same problem in places like Chimera or other content areas. Yeah. But in just to keep in mind in Hydra, though, the extra turns cost you potentially damage. If you every hit is defined by that 1,000 turn limit. And that rule still applies, but it's actually what you've got here is a solid build. But this combo of like Relentless with a bit of Cruel, or even like a lethal with a bit of like Merciless 4 or something like that, right? You throw in not so much the extra turns, but you can throw in some cooldown reduction. That's not a bad shout.
Yeah, for sure. So these kind of stats right now is almost 8,000 attack, which is crazy on an epic. We've got some nice speed. This is kind of speed tune, but we're going to take it a lot further than this in a second. Crit rate, we're a bit under, but once again, we kind of get that increased crit rate. It kind of makes up for it.
You've made a bit of a build mistake here.
Okay.
You only need 70% because you always have crit rate on.
Yeah, I guess so. This was just kind of, with the stat bloat and stuff, it just happened. I think she was a bit...
It happened ironically, yeah. Probably you've gained it from the empowerment. You gain 5% and then different things. So to explain what I mean, the crit rate always goes on before you deal damage on the A2. So you never need to run anything less than 70% crit rate, because you will go A2, get your crit rate, A3, you've got the crit rate, A1, you've still got the crit rate. Then when I go back to A2, it puts it on before you attack. So therefore, you're always going to crit. You don't need the 100% because the A2 will place the critical rate buff before you attack.
Yeah, it's actually one of the reasons why I really, really like Whisper. Like for that, it's a nice entry level for players building up a strong boss layer with a single target. But then also here we got 335% crit damage ish and enough accuracy for where we need it. And I don't know where this resistance came from. It's like 300 plus. It's crazy.
Lessons in empowerment.
Yeah.
Like people probably don't realize the incremental gains you gain from like empowering. One of the things about the epic empowerment is you didn't get as much like speed and critical rate, but you actually still got like 40% attack. You still got a substantial amount of like accuracy and resistance. The blessing still gives you like 60 resistance. So you easily just naturally will gain these things when you deck them out. Maybe you had like a little resistance roll on one of your accessories, or you've got some resistance substats. Like it's pretty easy to pick up a couple of hundred resistance if you have a fully built out character these days.
Yeah, for sure. And mastery wise, do you know what? I always float between War Master and Helm Smasher. It's all about like, are you trying to reach true damage with that A3? For me, I was just valuing just for Shogun. I'm just trying to get as much damage in a quick time as possible. But on your build personally, do you have War Master or do you have Helm Smasher? Because you're reaching
Helm Smasher.
True damage as well, right?
The moment you start investing in Helm Smasher, in Ignore Defense, you go Helm Smasher, because actually what you're trying to do is the quest to true damage, right? In every content area, the moment you start going for Crushing Rend and you put Merciless or you put Lethal and then you get the era bonuses, all you're doing is going, I need to get to true damage so that my A3 is hitting comparable to my A2. So you go, even though you're hitting true damage on the A2, Helm Smasher is just going to be possible to hit true damage on your A3 and the A1. If you're going in this type of build, I would suggest more towards the War Master.
Yeah.
Because you're not actually going to notice as much difference because you're not stacking enough Ignore Defense. If you look at this build right now, you've got 0 Ignore Defense in the build. So the only places you're getting Ignore Defense from is probably the Cat's Gaze and the area bonuses. That's only going to get, and the Crushing Rend, of course. Yeah. So it's kind of like you haven't invested hard enough. I would say, though, if anyone's got a 6-star Crushing Rend, you always go Helm Smash and full investment into Ignore Defense.
Yeah, I'm actually, you know what, you're saying Cat's Gaze. I'm taking it off Thor. Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember as well, that's 26% more crit damage.
Yeah. So I was actually, so just for anyone that's not aware, why Merciless is so effective or some of these other Ignore Defense effects is we've got 35% here at a 6-piece. We're getting all of this attack percent, crit damage, speed, decreasing the cooldown, which is very important as well for some of her skills. But then if you get the 9-piece, which I don't have the luxury of having, unfortunately, for Whisper, but 15% chance of granting that extra turn. So if you still enjoyed the Relentless, it still gives you a chance here of re-rolling that if you need to. So here we go, guys. She's crazy. It's actually nuts, man, with the stuff that she can do.
And just as a note here, what you really want to be doing is pairing her with feral debuffs or action buffs, right? Because obviously she can benefit from these when you're hitting. So this is the crazy difference right now, okay?
God.
You just hit 200,000. My Whisper right now, who's only a +1, will hit for 1.4 million on an A3.
Because you're building up to true damage, it's like a massive difference, right?
No, because I'm putting 10 protected buffs on her and 6 feral debuffs on the enemy.
Yeah, I think,
and she's called Cat's Gaze.
Yeah, I think where I seen that the most was in Hydra with like Senna and Pharaoh the Barkhorn. I was seeing like 1.8 millions, 1.5s. It was crazy once you start layering the foundations.
Yeah.
But here, basically, like some really cool times come from, you know, those extra turns, right? The Relentless procs. I've definitely seen at least like 20 seconds in this team. Like, we could very easily just go crazy with the stacking of protection
It depends
buffs.
on the build, obviously, because if you've gone for Merciless, but you've lost like a couple of thousand attack, then it's going to be not comparable to the previous build, right? So there's always a balance here. Sets will only get you so far. You still need the stats to be able to do it.
It's still pretty great. Like, guys, do you know with the max HP of champions, of course, it's capped in loads of these contents, past like the progression stages. Like, to be able to just come through and whack out these numbers with an epic is disgusting. It's like, I used to actually really be a massive fan of Gala long braids. She was my favorite for the longest, but Whisper overtook. It's because of you. You spoke me into it.
They kind of are very similar, but the thing about Whisper is she has a little bit more debuff potential. And actually, when you get her a 9-piece, like Ash did a video on this recently, and when you watch a 9-piece Merciless go, it is a little bit disgusting because what you're getting is not just the extra turn, you're also getting the reflex. So what you can do is you can almost go A2, A3, A2, A3, A2, A3 a lot because you're getting the 1 turn reduction on the A3 and you can also proc Cycle of Violence at the same time. If you can get her hitting hard enough that you're doing more than 30% of the boss's HP, you're not just getting the reflex on the set, you're getting it on Cycle of Violence. So you can easily make A3 get double proc because they're separate effects, right? They don't. It's not like one disables the other. They both work together. So you could easily go A3 and get Merciless proc and also get a Cycle of Violence proc, go to A2 back to A3 and just jump between them. I've had one incident where my Whisper took 12 turns.
Really? Well, I think the most I ever seen was like 6 or 7. That's wild to see 12.
Because she did A2, got an extra turn from Merciless. A3 guarantees you an extra turn. Went back to A2, got an extra turn off her passive. Went back to A3. Then she went A1, procced an extra turn off Merciless. Went back to A3, then A2, then A3, then A1. I was like, this thing is dead. Whisper, sit down. Calm the heck down. It was a very high roll. You're not going to get that often because you're rolling lots of different options. So the passive will roll once, and the relentless will roll once. You can only get the activation once though. So even though you have 2 rolls, it'll go like, did relentless work? No. Okay, did the passive work? Yes. Cool. Extra turn. Right, and the passive is not tied to the same dependency I think that other extra turn mechanics have, in the sense that it doesn't decrease the chance. Right, it's still just a 10% all the time. But yeah, she can this is kind of what you can do. It's a shame you don't have a 9-piece Merciless because the 9-piece Merciless it's
you know what?
quite
I
fun.
wanted to ask you this, right? So in this team, for some reason, like where my Whisper is right now, it's one thing I actually don't understand about Godseeker. I always understood it was around position, but for some reason she's not prioritizing where the new
She prioritizes rarity first.
Ah, I learn something new every day. I was losing my head. I was like, why is she not prior? So it's kind of a downside for teams with Whisper. In my team, anyway, it's like I really want Godseeker to pick her up. I wasn't sure if there's a way to manipulate that.
You could probably do it by getting rid of the other 2 legendaries. Like instead of using Chimera, use a Renegade.
Yeah.
Right. If your cooldowns are low enough, you probably don't need the Chimera. You could probably drop out Chancellor Yasmin. I think her name's not Chancellor Yasmin. What's her name? Adeline. For your favorite champion in the game, which does exactly the same thing you needed to do, which is Cornelia, and then it will work on team positioning, right? Because Riho will always revive on the passive, and then she would revive your Whisper there. So you probably don't need the Chimera because Renegade will probably do the job for you. Because she reduces 2 turns, right? You don't need the Chimera here because the Chimera is really only serving as a reset, right? You're almost wasting turns by making Chimera go first.
Yeah, that's true. It would be really cool because I think she does it like, it's on par with Newt. Honestly, it's actually pretty wild what she's doing here. So if there's some way that you can manipulate this, like even with the extra turns, I definitely seen it where she went again and again and it was finished.
Yeah, I would say drop the Chimera for a Renegade and drop the Adeline for a Cornelia, and you will find that it'll work exactly the same way. You could also run the Renegade slower so that actually you can save on the Chimera turn, right? So you can make it so that you don't have to have the Chimera taking 2 turns, because I'm guessing you've got Chimera built in certain ways for certain content areas. Like he's taking an extra turn here. That's just a turn that's costing you. What you got to remember about Sand Devil is a turn-based tournament. So that one extra turn is probably going to cost you 50 to 100 energy per tournament. And it's not much, but it's a numbers game, right? That 100 energy could be spent on something else.
Yeah, that's true. Like I think, honestly, I've not changed my Chimera build since I got him years ago. It's just like, because now I've got Yumiko, I don't really need... I can actually speed tune the Chimera instead, which would be pretty optimal.
Well, you need to take the legendary out if you want to get the Aniri to revive your Whisper, because Aniri will always prioritize rarity before she prioritizes team order. It's a weird quirk.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying Renegade. So you basically make her a neutral trade, because your Riho will revive from the Renegade from the Aniri passive. The other option is I think you could maybe use, if you were to put Whisper in your lead position, then you will get Aniri reviving Riho off the passive, but it won't reset her skills. So just keep that in mind. You won't get the same experience as that.
Something to work on. It's a
pretty simple solution for me. I think it's a pretty simple solution. Renegade and Cornelia, bring back the good old Cornelia, and it'll solve your problems there.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I guess in dungeons, guys, like for me personally, I think Whisper is top tier in Sand Devil, as we just seen, if we can, control it, as Saf just mentioned. And Phantom Shogun, absolutely crazy. I would go as far to say the best epic in the game to take down the Phantom Shogun in terms of raw damage. these kind of bosses, I guess once you go through the waves, I can see her kind of popping off on a dragon and stuff. But, many ways that you could do that with just debuffs or whatever. Any other kind of highlights from the classic dungeons you think Whisper's excelled in for you?
The classic dungeons are always a bit weird because you still need those pre-built teams, right? You still need multi-hitters for Fire Knight. She's pretty good at multi-hitting, but she's not. She requires those debuffs, which you may not have got on to be able to get that extra turn. Spider, obviously, she's not going to be great at because she's single target, and it's far better to try and kill those spiderlings to be able to do damage. She's particularly good at killing, Doom Tower bosses. That's where she has a lot of value, and particularly good in places like killing Amius or any sort of solo standing boss. But the dungeons, because of the way that the dungeon bosses are presented, you don't really want to be doing lots of damage to Ice Golem. You really want to be AoEing the spiderlings. Dragon, probably absolutely the best option for her. Iron Twins, she can do a job, but obviously you'll proc the passive, so Geomancer just kind of wins always in that situation these days, and it's just the nature of it. Hydra, she's particularly good for if you can control like how the heads respawn and different things, and like bursting, because she has a lot of high single target burst.
Yeah.
And overkill is really, really crucial. But just keep in mind as well with the A3 now, she lost a bit of value because the second hit will get cancelled if the head respawns because of the silly changes they made to Hydra.
I noticed that today when I was just trying it out. It was so annoying. But just to give you guys a grasp here, I actually re-recorded it, so we have to do every run. So in this team, I just put 4 champions, and it is a speed farm in my opinion, 1 minute 30 seconds, and she popped out 2 million damage on the hardest stage of the Doom Tower with this rotation against a Griffin here. We kind of demonstrated this in the start, but she popped out nearly 3 million damage. We'd have to do Dark Fear again. But then on this Bommel run, I was just curious, can she whop out Bommel? And she went crazy. She went crazy on this dude. So yeah, decrease defense and weaken, setting it up.
She works really well with someone like a Riho or a Lydia. Like they set her up really well.
Yeah.
Pretty good with Mikage as well, because Mikage allows her to open with A3 into an A2 rather than, if you are going to use a crit rate buff, you need to open with the A2 pretty much all the time, which doesn't give you an extra turn, which is why it's always good to give her some with a Mikage or someone who gives her that increased crit rate buff. That will help. But yeah, that A2 is the thing is it's really good as well if you're an early or mid game player, because there's very, very low bar of entry to get that true damage, right? You just need to put a weaken out, and she provides it herself. So if you give her an Axie banner, you put her on that A2, you're going to hit that true damage. It's going to be able to get you through content much easier than other champions, because he's got access to true damage in a very low cost. It's very cheap to do it.
Yeah, for sure. So do you know what's the most damage, before we kind of see what I've done here, what's the most damage you've seen on Whisper post change? So not before with the 1500 turns. Have you tested it afterwards, after all the rebalance?
Haven't, but I don't think it's comparable to something like a Marius or a Calamitous. I think she's not that far off a ninja, if I'm being honest. It depends on how you control the damage, right? So what I mean by that is making sure that you get her A2 to fire on her head just as it's about to die, so that you get the full value and not use the A3. Mm-hmm. She's pretty good at popping living heads more than anything else, because obviously the dead heads, the defense is still there, but killing the living heads is more important so that you get access to the dead head. She's pretty good at popping those, whereas these other heads will have a lot of defense. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what she's pretty good for.
I think right here, I just wanted to see some damage on the decapitation. I slowed it down for you guys, and this is like without any kind of protect, like 1.9 million. Guys, do you know when sometimes this is with the Relentless build, by the way, not the Merciless, for anyone wondering. And to be popping out that much from the A2, and then with the combined A3 into A2, Relentless, man, I've been seeing like 4 to 5 million in just one turn phasing, and pretty wild.
There is a debate going on, or not so much a debate, but there's theory crafting going on about the combo of Cat's with Crushing Rend versus Arethi's Comet and Nature's Wrath, right? And certainly in the Trunda debate angle, it's way more valuable to go for Arethi's Comet and the Nature's Wrath with Zeal.
Yeah.
Right. It's actually more valuable with Trunda to go for less ignore defense and go for more multiplicative damage bonuses, especially with the relics coming in. Whisper could also rise to that level somewhat, a little bit, in the sense that, depending on how you set up those weakens and depending on how you set her up in terms of damage and how much she can burst, it's always like the higher you get on a higher number, the better the multipliers will become. And that's when you start having conversations around, maybe I don't need as much ignore defense. Maybe actually the better value here is to go for more multipliers, because you got to remember now there's a lot of multipliers in the game. There's Comet, which is 30%. There's Wrath, that's 30%. You get the gemstones. Those gemstones are another 20% and stuff like that. So
yeah. So I was just
it
getting,
all adds up.
I was getting blown away there. Like she was just going nuts. I was like, what, 1.5 million there, nearly 2 million there. So we're like, what, 3.3 million? Another million on the A1. Oh my gosh, that's like 5 million nearly.
This is in your relentless build, right?
This is relentless. I didn't have Cat's Gaze on. And
so you can see there is an example. You're doing what, 700,000 per A3? That's 1.4 million. You did 1.8 million. So it's not that far off already, and you have very low ignore defense in your build. If you put like an extra 35% ignore defense in your build, that A3 is going to go up.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas your A2 is subject to the stats you have. You can't really push that higher other than just putting more stats. Whereas if you can get more ignore defense, the A3 gets stronger.
Yeah, so I guess let's just go through here. So this was the result, kind of sped it up for you guys. And we had a whopping 180 million on the hardest Hydra difficulty, full auto. And it was, like, if you look at Thor there, guys, like, he is in Nature's Wrath, some of my best gear. And she was in Relentless. And they went head-to-head in this style of team. And this team can do a lot better with Harima in it. I've done 700 million, which I showcased in the video. But for this style of team, they're both self-enhancing increased attack. I thought it was a really cool comparison. AoE versus single target and, what they're bringing to the table. She's up there, guys, with one of the best damage dealers, in my opinion, in the game, in Thor. And this is what enables, right? Crushing Rem +4, extra turns. And there's just nothing like it in terms of epics.
Yeah. I'm on a quest to try and get my Whisper to +4. Once I get my Whisper to +4, there will be an updated, HH Gaming Network Church of Whisper with all, because I actually have some pretty strong merciless accessories. I think I've got a double attack critical damage amulet all ready to go. So I've got a build. I need her to get to +4, but trying to get Whispers is really, really hard because I never put these epics on a prison pool. Like, she's appeared once. And that's the best place to normally get a +4 is go to the prison pool, because it's a short list of epics, right? I've pretty much got all the lizards on a +4 these days because I went hard for like Teox and I've just got so many of them. Yeah. So I'm trying to I've got +1. I've got 2 6-star Whispers. I have a 6-star soul ready for a 3rd Whisper when I actually have time to get more Whispers. But we are making an army so that the church can be well represented. And when I do that, let's just say I've got some crazy, insane, like, numbers to run. It will be super fun. But I'm just waiting for mine. It's still a +1 minus. So it's a lot of difference between +1 and +4 because it's 30% attack alone. Right, that's a lot, on a base attack. I think a base attack's like 1400.
Yeah,
that's a lot of damage you can get from just 30% more attack. So it adds up.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think one day if Live Arena comes with invite mode, we need to do Genzin versus your army of Whispers.
Whisper army. The Church of Whisper versus Genzin. We can do it.
Yeah, that'll be fun. But guys, just as a little TLDR as well, I think, like, for anyone looking at these stats and builds thinking, wow, you kind of need this to make Whisper great. Both me and Saf have been playing with this champion for literally years at this point. And I would say that's not the case. She's still very good as a base. Of course, layering the foundations makes her stronger. And you don't have to invest some of your best gear. Like, as you see at the start, I've got her in Relentless. She's going to go back to Relentless. That's how I enjoy using this champion for where I use her. It's definitely worth investing some, at least good gear into her to take in certain areas. Any last kind of top tips before we wrap up here, Saf?
Last top tips? No, I think, if you manage to get her to +6, 6-star soul, and you've got a +4, then, your accuracy requirements mean you can land accuracy. Relics are really, really, really big now. Especially gemstones. If you can get the right gemstones, they can really add up a lot more power to your champion. So keep looking out for those. And like, I would say if you can get a 9 Merciless, that is the funnest build you will ever put on a character. It's so fun. 9 Merciless is so fun with Whisper. You sit there sometimes, you're like, Whisper, please take a break. It's already dead. That meme, it's already dead. That is Whisper when she's in 9 Merciless. She's like, it's already dead, Whisper. Leave it be. You killed it. Stop whacking the dead corpse on the ground.
God. Man, let's just look at Whispers here as well. Clan Boss just pumping out. Honestly, this team it's got like no decreased attack. I just threw some random, no speed tune, nothing. I just threw her in here with some random ass champions. And let's see. I think they'll survive like 15 or 20 turns. Look at the damage in 25 turns. Like, Yo, Whisper's going crazy. All right, guys. I guess on that note, that is going to be all for today's video. Saf, I highly appreciate you coming on for this one. Well overdue. Any last words here before we wrap things up, I guess?
No, thanks for having me on, and may the Church of Whisper continue to bring joy to every player in Raid Shadow Legends.
Yeah, and I'll also leave Saf's channel in the description below. That goes without saying. Make sure you go and subscribe to the man, and hopefully we'll do a video over on your channel sometime soon as well. That'll be pretty cool.
Hopefully. Indeed.
But yeah, guys, wishing you an amazing rest of your day whenever this goes out, and I'll see you all on a video soon. Peace.